All right, guys, welcome back to episode 4 of Failure is Progress, presented by Sweat Factory CrossFit. I am your host, Coach Keith, and I'm here with Coach Frankie. Firstly, we want to thank everyone who has been listening, following, subscribing, liking, leaving us reviews. We appreciate you so much. If you haven't done that already, please go ahead and do that for us so that you can get notifications whenever we upload new episodes.
Yeah, and we also want to remind you that our next competition, the Festivus Games, presented by Sweet Cups Chef, is coming up October 21st of 2023. This will be happening at both of our locations in Claremont and Rockledge. We want you to know that if you sign up before September 23rd, which is the t-shirt deadline, you'll get free t-shirts. I know we've had like a good 5 or 6 teams that signed up over the past week, so spots are filling up. Make sure you get in on time. What do we have lined up today, Keith?
Today, we are actually going to be talking about a little bit of the games recap. So we had the CrossFit Games going on last week, and being someone who is a little bit newer to the CrossFit coaching side of things, and being, I would say, a longtime member, I kind of wanted to get your perspective on how you feel about the CrossFit Games. I kind of wanted to start with what you thought was the most exciting part of watching the CrossFit Games.
Man, I think the most exciting part for me this year was definitely watching it with my kids and seeing how excited they got. Obviously, because I've been in the gyms so much lately, they were able to watch it on TV and be like, wow, daddy does this and this is cool. And my daughter's doing CrossFit too, so she was really into it. And it was fun to be able to share that. I think for me personally, watching the games, what affected me the most was watching some of the athletes who we expected to go far not go as far as we expected, and seeing some newer athletes who showed up and just really killed it. Olivia Herstetter, I don't remember her last name.
Can't pronounce it even.
She was a rookie this year, and it was her first CrossFit Games and won her first event.
Yeah,
and it was really exciting to watch that.
I think she won 2, didn't she?
I think
or
she won
just 1.
I think she won more than 2.
Yeah.
She may have won a few different events.
That's crazy.
She really did smash it this year. It was excellent. So yeah, watching some of that, and something that really caught my attention last year that also caught my attention this year, and I'm really starting to like this, man, rooting for the last person. In our gyms, whenever somebody's the last person on a workout, everybody kind of rallies around them, and you feel that power, that sense of community. And seeing it on a professional level is really cool. Last year, it happened during the stone carry on the Capitol at Madison, where I forget her name as well, but she carried that stone, the Husafeld stone is what it's called, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
She was like way behind the mark, but she finished, and the entire crowd rallied behind her. And the same things I saw happen this year when Roman couldn't perform on the same stage because he had a broken foot.
Yeah.
Right? It was a last event.
First of all, doing double unders with a broken foot is just an incredible amount of grit and determination.
100%. And not only was he able to figure out how to do them, but he didn't care about the time. He didn't care where he was placing. He cared that he came out and he pushed. He came out and displayed that no matter what happens, I'm going to put forth an effort. Not my best effort, an effort. Yeah. And everybody really rallied behind him, and it was just an insane thing to watch. And I think the same thing happened with Ellie Turner in one of her competitions, where she just kind of blew up. And the crowd really inspired her and got behind her and helped her finish it. It's not about coming in first place or last place. It's finishing. I was having a conversation with someone earlier today in one of the gyms about this. It comes, I feel, from the military a lot. It comes from, the armed forces type of perspective, where it really doesn't matter where you place. It matters that you finish. And a lot of that is instilled in CrossFit athletes. We get this sense where if we're not the first one to finish, then, we didn't succeed. But it's not about that, right? It's really about finishing. It's only you against you. So those were the highlights for me. What were the highlights for you?
Same thing. I think it was just the For whatever reason, this was one of the more emotional games. There were just so many points where, like you mentioned, some athletes just didn't do as well as we expected them to do, and then some athletes just, I mean, had a sense of grit and determination that was just incredible to watch. I mean, we had, like you mentioned, Roman Krenikov broke his foot and powered through, and the reason that was exciting for me was his post event interview. The interviewer, I forget her name, asked what motivated him to keep going, and he said he just wants to keep the for lack of a better phrase, the illusion of being a superhero to his son. Like you said, it wasn't about going out and smashing the workout, or it wasn't about trying to get onto the podium, even though, I mean, I'm sure that had something to do with it, but it was more about like how I react to this situation is going to directly affect how my son's view of what a man should be. And
Yes.
that's more important to me
Yeah.
than the pain that I'm going through. That's more important to me than finishing last in this workout. That's more important to me than anything else, is how my son is going to watch his dad struggle.
100%.
So that
Not
just,
just how a man should be, how a warrior should be, how an athlete should be, how a hard worker should be, right?
for sure.
I mean, watching some of these competitions was mind blowing, man. Watching Laura Horvath on the pig was insane.
That was,
I mean,
yeah.
she was behind everybody, and she just walked up and just got right to it.
Yeah.
She just got right to it, and it was really intense to be able to watch that. It was exciting. My daughters became a huge fan of Emma Lawson, which was really cool. Emma, I think, smashed it this year.
Absolutely.
I think everything that we would have expected from a Mal O'Brien, we got from an Emma Lawson, and it was really nice to see because I think she's a complete sweetheart.
Yeah.
She's young. I think she's 17, 18 years old,
Yeah.
and competing
19.
she's 19 years old,
Yeah.
okay, competing on the highest stage, and she really showed up. I mean, I think she got beat by someone who was better than her. I don't think that she did anything where she failed or she didn't get to her level of expectations. I think she just got beat by somebody who was better than her, and we really can't ask for more, right? When we're watching these professional athletes, it's truly inspiring. How did you feel about? I'm going to bring somebody up who I'm just completely in love with because I just cannot believe what she's been able to accomplish. How did you feel about Annie Thorisdottir?
I've always been a fan of Annie. Her just her drive to want to compete, to want to do well, and always like internalizing that competition and never like really lashing out. Like, she really is like CrossFit sweetheart. She was the first
Yep.
daughter, and she really displays that with grace, regardless of what place she comes in. But the fact that she's been on the podium, I believe, I want to say 4 times. I know for sure at least 3 times, because she won twice
Mm-hmm.
and then she got a third after she had the baby. But I want to say it was 4 times. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, she's always so consistent. I'm not gonna lie. I expected her to do a little bit better, especially coming off of a win from the teams last year, or not a win, but they got second place last year in the teams,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess that kind of elevated my expectations of her fitness, being so fit on the team side of things. Coming into competition, I was kind of expecting like a top 5 finish, but I mean, 13th place for her is still incredibly good. She's been competing. She's the only athlete, male or female, to compete in 3 different decades. She competed back in '09. She's competed all the way through the teens and then now in the
And
20s.
you know what's amazing about that is she's 33.
Yeah.
If you were to say that in any other sport, you'd think you're talking about a 50-year-old athlete.
Yeah.
She's 33 and she's competed in 3 different decades.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane. I'll tell you, man, what I love about her is her spirit. I just love her spirit and her emotion. I mean, there's so many clips of her. Obviously, she's competed probably more than anybody else at this point. Her spirit in every CrossFit Games just shines so bright, and seeing the relationship that she has with all the other athletes is incredible. She's obviously loved and liked by everybody. I really enjoyed watching her interactions with Katrin during the lifting portion,
Yeah,
seeing them just kind of
that
like
was
look
really
over at each
cool.
other and be like, "Did you get it? I got it. Yeah." Like, I
Yeah,
mean, it reminds me of being in the gym
yeah,
with Jake and with you and being like, "Did you get it? Yeah, I got it. Yeah,
yeah,
awesome." It's like it's the same feeling, and I think that's the most beautiful part about this sport. It's like we've talked in previous episodes, being able to feel the same things, perform the same movements, get the same motivation every single day that these athletes get when they perform at the highest level.
absolutely.
There's no way in hell that I'm doing this in baseball and going out and having the same feelings that professional baseball players are getting by playing with my buddies on the weekend. It's
Yeah,
not going to happen. But we can go to a CrossFit gym and we can do the same things and feel the same way.
yeah,
It's really fun, man.
yeah. That actually brings us up to my next question. You being a newer coach, you seeing how certain things affect the CrossFit community. How do you think the games affects the community, either at Sweat Factory or just the CrossFit community as a whole?
That's a good question. How does it affect the communities? I mean, obviously, it's a huge marketing tool, right?
Mm.
I think seeing the way that the business side of CrossFit continues to evolve is cool. I, as a coach, I see it and I love that I can use it as a motivational tool.
Mhm.
I use it with the kids when we're in kids class, and I tell them, if you're going to be a CrossFit Games athlete, you got to start now. You want to be really good, slow down. You want to get this movement, use lighter weight. It's inspiring to be able to see these things. I love the behind the scenes work that goes in, thanks to mediums like YouTube, thanks to podcasts, thanks to all these different mediums. We can get insights that we didn't get in the past. Talk about Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Being able to watch any of these athletes and follow them and have them post their journey from behind the scenes is inspiring as well. And it's really nice to be able to have that as a tool as a coach. I don't think a lot of people think about that, but if you have someone who follows, I'll use somebody who didn't compete, Danny Spiegel, for example. They may say, wow, I really want to be able to lift like her. I really want to be able to lift like her. And it's great to be able to say, yeah, you want to lift like her, you got to eat like her. You gotta realize that she understands her goals and she's not trying to be the thinnest, she's trying to be the strongest, and it requires her to eat. I'll use myself as an example. I want to look like Noah Olson, right? One of the things Noah Olson does is he rarely ever wears a shirt. So now I don't really want to wear a shirt. And you start visualizing these things and you see these inspirations, right? And you want to start being like them. You got to start thinking like them. You got to start talking like them. But it's also, motivating to see just how much work they put in the off season, just how much work they put in on a daily basis, and what they do. And I guess us as coaches have to learn how to use it to our advantage, right? On the same note, it could be a disadvantage. It could be like, well, I'm not training to be a CrossFit Games athlete. I don't want to look like that. A lot of people come into our gyms, especially women, and they'll say, well, I don't want to have these big shoulders. I don't want to have these big arms.
Mm.
And it may kind of sound off when we respond, but the right response is you're not going to put in the work to look like that.
Yeah.
To do 3 or 4 workouts a day and eat 2 or 3 thousand calories a day and not socialize with your friends and family and not go out anywhere, it takes a lot of hard work and dedication. So for you to have those shoulders,
Yeah.
it's going to basically mean you're going to basically quit your job and just do this 24/7.
Yeah.
So,
The
I
same way they
mean,
do. Yeah.
it's good and bad. If somebody has, and I think going back to before I started CrossFit, what stopped me from joining was that idea, that mentality that if I did come into a gym and I didn't look like a CrossFit athlete, how was I going to get through? How was I going to, like, I didn't fit in, So using the positives and negatives of these is really to our benefit as coaches. I think the CrossFit Games in and of itself gives us a huge tool, and I think CrossFit as a company gives us huge tools. It gives Sweat Factory a lot of um, a lot in our arsenal to be able to give the best possible experience to all of our athletes in all the gyms.
For sure. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think it can be a massive tool for inspiration if we as coaches like use it as that tool for inspiration. If we just allow people to watch the games and then come into a CrossFit gym expecting that, one, it can be really intimidating, like you mentioned, and then two, it can kind of give people a false sense of what we're really trying to accomplish. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
we do want to, CrossFit forge in elite fitness, but we want to take the much longer approach than the games athlete. The games athlete has 8 months to get as fit as possible to
right.
compete at the games. We have, 10, 20, 30, however long you want to, whatever time frame you want to put on that to get as fit as we need to be for our goals. Like for instance, the lady that comes in is like, "Hey, I don't want to get too bulky." That's fine. You're probably not going to, but if that is what you're worried about, we can
Yeah,
take 10 years to get you. Maybe not 10 years. We can take 2 years to get you to the body that you want to get to, and have the process feel not so daunting. I think people see the games athletes and all their incredible feats and their incredible bodies, and they're like, "Oh man, I don't need all of that." And it's like, well, you probably won't be doing that in a 60-minute class.
yeah, and I think I mean, looking at games athletes and looking at professional athletes and looking at everyday athletes, it is important to always have that perspective and say to yourself, what are my goals? What do I want to do? What do I want to look like? What do I want to perform like? We have, I'll call him out because I think he's amazing. Kurt
Mm,
comes in every afternoon, and Kurt to me is like the epitome of an everyday athlete. Like, this guy has an incredible engine. He's incredibly strong, doesn't weigh a whole lot. So I see him and I say to myself, wow, this guy, he is exactly what you would call an elite everyday athlete, right? You want somebody in the gym like that because he inspires other people. People see him and they're like, man, how does he do it? How?
mm,
How does he do a pull up with almost 100 pounds, extra, right? And it's his dedication.
mm.
He's been doing it for a long time and he hasn't stopped,
Yeah,
right?
it's
So
the
he's continued.
consistency.
And you look at Kurt and he still doesn't look like a games athlete, right? He's pretty damn close,
Yeah,
but he doesn't look like a games athlete. And it's not a knock on him. It's just, as hard as he works and as hard as he does his things, he still has a regular life,
yeah,
which is perfectly normal. So it's impressive to see what he's capable of, but we also have to keep a perspective. What are our goals? What are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to accomplish? And what are we doing to get one step closer every day? So I think, yeah, man, the CrossFit Games is definitely a good it's a good example to follow, but we have to be realistic with where we're at and what we're doing, both as coaches and athletes.
for sure.
So let me ask you this question, changing the topic just a little bit. Who was your biggest disappointment and who was your biggest surprise from the CrossFit Games?
In all honesty, I wasn't disappointed by anybody. There are certain people that I expected to do better.
So we'll
But
call that a disappointment.
we can, yeah. The reason why I say it's not a disappointment is because they don't owe me anything. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like if they don't win the CrossFit Games, then it's just kind of like, oh, I thought you would type of thing. But no, I was very surprised that what's the man's name? Um, oh my gosh, Justin Medeiros. Obviously, the two-time reigning champ didn't even come in the top 10. That was extremely surprising.
Yep.
Outside of that, I really expected Noah Olson to do a little better. I didn't think Brent Fikowski had his best games ever, even finishing fourth. I think there were a couple of events I expected him to do a lot better on that he just did not. So I was really
Yeah.
surprised by, I guess, some of the veterans. Some of the veterans I really felt like maybe didn't capitalize, and we're always on the outside looking in.
Right.
Um, but yeah, mostly those guys. On the ladies' side of the fields, I honestly wasn't disappointed by anybody, but Emma Lawson, like you mentioned earlier, she came in swinging. She, excuse me, after I think after halfway through the second day, she had the leader's jersey and she had it all the way until the last day. I mean, so she really, I mean, she had how many top 10 finishes? I don't think she finished any event outside the top 10. So just that in itself is absolutely incredible
Yep.
to be able to do that and hold that type of excellence throughout the entire weekend is pretty cool.
Yeah, she won the first event too. Like she came out
Yeah,
swinging hard.
she came out swinging.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man. One person that I wanted to see do better, I really wanted to see do better, was Paige Powers. After she
Mm.
won the Wadapalooza, I didn't even know who she was before Wadapalooza, and all of a sudden, I was like, wow, she did really well. And I've been following her. She's part of Mayhem's programming, and it's fun to watch her. She seems like such a down to earth, humble person. So it was really, I'm not going to say sad. I think she did well. She came in the top 10, but I wanted to see her place higher. I think one person that I thought was going to do better that didn't was also Danielle Brandon, who came in ninth. I really thought Danielle was going to do a little bit better. The person who I guess surprised me the most really was Emma Lawson as well. I really didn't see her placing that darn high. I think everybody was counting on Laura Horvath to win, and I think she proved why everyone was counting on her to win. I mean, she just dominated.
I'll say I honestly expected Alexis Raptis to podium, maybe not win, but definitely to podium. Ariel Lohan, I did not see that happening. Well, after the first day, I think
Yeah.
she was like barely in the top 10. After the pig, I think she came in second in the pig chipper. Yeah, it says it right there. But yeah, she
Yeah,
came in
she
second in the
she
pig chipper, but like it there was no, she was just super consistent all weekend. There was nothing like really flashy that she did, and then like she hit the podium, and we were like, "Whoa, where did she come from?" type of thing.
yeah. Yeah, I think she was a nice surprise too. I think man, I think in the women's side it was a pretty good field.
Oh, it was a
I
dog
think
fight.
I
It
think
was
what
a dog fight,
I think what kind of was weird was just all the new names that we saw up at the top and
and all the
not.
kids, all these
Yeah, I
17 year
mean,
olds.
yeah, there was a lot of new faces, which I think is great. I think the sport is evolving, and it's great to see it turning into this. It's definitely turning into a younger sport, which as we keep seeing more and more of this sport in our youth, we're going to start seeing it more and more in the pros as well.
Mm.
These 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids who are performing at the top level. So it's impressive. I think going back to the men's side, the thing that surprised me the most, just like you, was like Justin Medeiros after the first day. It was almost torture to watch him.
Yeah.
And I saw his YouTube video basically kind of explaining what happened and seeing it in his face. Like he really feels like he let himself down. And there was things that were out of his control,
Mm.
which, from a mindset perspective, you really want to commend him because he didn't quit. He didn't give up. He really gave his best. And I think that's admirable. Anybody else who came in, I think he came in last in the first event,
Yeah.
that really would have destroyed anybody else. And he was pretty hurt, but he still fought through. So, I mean, kudos to him. It was a surprise that he placed as low as he can, but that just goes to show you, man, it really doesn't matter how hard you train. You can only control what you can only control.
Facts.
So, it was pretty surprising. The other thing that surprised me, man, was Patrick Vellner.
He does it every year, man.
He's like the number one, number two of all time.
He does it every year.
Um,
I thought you meant like him coming back. He
Yeah.
started after the first day, I think he was like in 22nd place or something. The rest of the weekend, he just fights his way up the leaderboard and then gets on the podium. I'm like, how?
But how does he never break into that first position spot? I don't know. He's like the Cara Saunders on the
Yeah.
male side. he's such an elite athlete, and he's got such a good head on his shoulders because he just seems like such an overall nice guy. But I was like, last day coming in, I was watching him, I was watching Adler, I was watching Krennikov. I was like, I really want to see Vellner finally get that gold, man. I really want to see him break into that top spot. But yeah, it was kind of like, oh man, he almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was a fun thing to watch.
Let me ask you this. Would you ever consider coaching a high level athlete, like somebody that had aspirations to go to the games or go to like even just not just semifinals, but go to semifinals?
Man, that's such a good question to ask me. So I don't know. I've never thought of it. Just like at a point in time, I had never thought of being a CrossFit coach.
Yeah.
But a couple of days ago, I was watching a video with Chris Hinshaw, and he was talking about um, his coaching of Froning, which is impressive. And he was talking about a conversation he had with Cara Saunders. She reached out to him and said, "Hey, I want you to coach me." And immediately he was like, "This is tough. Like, I don't want to take on this person. This is a person who's come in second place multiple times. I don't know if I want to take on her." And then he asked her what her goal was. And her goal was to get a sub 6-minute mile, I think, or something, which was for him very admirable. Like, she realized, I can get to second place all I want. This is what I want to do. You know, it was what she could control, and she wanted to get better at what she could control. And it got me thinking, like, man, if I had to coach someone who came up to me and said, "Frankie, I want you to coach me to be a CrossFit Games athlete," like, I would love the opportunity. It would definitely depend on all of the goals leading up to that. You can come into the gym and just say, "I want to be a CrossFit Games athlete," right?
Mm-hmm.
Every kid wants to be a professional basketball player. But what are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to give up outside of the gym to make the gains inside of the gym? Because that's really what would ultimately give me the green light to say, yeah, I'll coach you. If you're asking me to coach you right now,
Let's do it, bro.
I mean, I'm honored, bro.
I'm ready.
I'm honored. We had the conversation on the last podcast. I'm surprised you just changed your mind that quickly. But
that's all it took, bro. You came into my life. Now let's go.
Yeah, it would be a massive undertaking. I would love the opportunity to do that. I think it would be really stressful, but yeah, I mean, why not, man? You know, the worst that could happen is just you don't get there, right? But yeah, I think that would be super fun. It would be great to learn to program in that direction. It would be great to learn to keep somebody accountable to that level. So I think it would be an honor, and it would be lots of fun, man. Have you coached anybody to that degree?
I was and I haven't spoken to them, so I won't use their name, but I was the gymnastics coach for one of the Masters athletes that made it back in 2018.
Wow.
So I have coached. I was a very small part of their team. It wasn't a thing to whereas I was the coach. But yeah, I would love to coach high level athletes. I love to coach anybody, but with high level athletes, obviously there's more breadth of what we can actually get into.
Yeah.
If I go into a class and I'm like, "Hey guys, today we're working on our press to handstands," everybody's gonna look at me like I got two heads. But with higher level athletes, you get to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, man. Like, because my coaching background comes from the kids first and then going into the adults, it would be a huge shift for me, but I would totally welcome it. I'm always looking to step out of my wheelhouse, so I think that would be fun. All right, this does it for episode 4 of Failure is Progress, presented by Sweat Factory CrossFit. Keith, it was an awesome one, man. Thank you so much for bringing those questions.
Absolutely, brother.
Make sure you like, subscribe. What else? Follow.
Leave us a review.
Leave us reviews. That's an important one. Thank you to everybody who listens. And again, Festivus Games, October 21st. happening at both Rockledge and the Claremont locations of Sweat Factory CrossFit. Make sure you sign up. Have a good one, everyone.